my entire adult life, I had lived in dark, rat-infested studio apartments in the worst parts of the city. I lived with a constant hope that someday I would be able to save up enough money to move out and buy myself a proper apartment in a nice, modern, high-rise building. But alas, with my low-paying job, that felt absolutely unreal. Then, one day, a good friend of mine called me and said he could help me out with a place. The very next day, we met up with Andrew and he introduced me to a local realtor. The realtor, in turn, immediately suggested I ride with him to check out my future palace. It was a newly built high-rise located almost completely outside the city limits. I was, of course, happy with everything. The price was ridiculously, almost suspiciously low for a place like this. It was a spacious one-bedroom apartment with all the modern amenities, a separate bathroom and toilet, nothing like the filthy holes I had rented in the past. During the daytime inspection, my eyes were literally glowing with excitement, and I immediately agreed to the purchase. In one short week, we settled all the paperwork, and I packed my bags ready to move into my new home. My joy simply knew no bounds. The entire long bus ride there that evening, I couldn't stop thinking, what is the catch? Various paranoid thoughts swarmed in my head, but pure joy quickly overcame all my logical doubts. When the city bus finally pulled up to my stop, it was already a late, dark evening, and oddly enough, I suddenly realized that I didn't see a single light on in any window of that entire massive building. I was the only passenger who stepped off at that deserted stop. Further down the route was just the end of the line. Approaching the main entrance, I started digging through my pockets looking for my intercom keys. It was incredibly dark outside because past my building there were absolutely no new developments. Just thick woods and a suburban housing tracks only started a couple of miles away. The only source of light was the flickering street lamp that shone only on the paved road. So right next to my building's entrance, it was pitch black. I struggled to find my new keys, tapped the magnet, and stepped into the lobby. Inside, there was a dead, deafening silence, and that exact same suffocating darkness. The smell of raw concrete and construction dust hung heavy in the air. But how is this possible? I thought to myself. When I came here with a realtor, I didn't pay attention to the lighting in the lobby. It was a bright day and I was too excited to think about it. There was nothing to do. I had to walk toward the elevators. My new apartment was on a 5th floor. There were 11 floors in the building total. And as you could probably guess, the elevator was, of course, out of order. The digital display above the closed doors was completely dead. I pulled out my phone and, using the flashlight to guide my way, began to slowly climb the concrete stairs. I suddenly realized that I hadn't paid attention to any other tenants at all when I inspected the place. Were all the newly moved in people really asleep already? It wasn't even 10 o'clock at night yet. My thoughts were shifting every single second, going from annoyance to deep anxiety. I was getting creeped out and I tried to walk very quietly, making almost no noise at all with my boots. The atmosphere in that cramped stairwell was deeply oppressive. I just wanted to get behind the locked door of my apartment as quickly as possible and turn on the lights. I climbed higher and higher, flight after flight, but my physical strength began to inexplicably drain away. My legs felt like lead and I could barely walk. Am I really so out of shape that I can't walk up to the 5th floor with one small duffel bag? I scolded myself. I looked at the clock on my phone. It was 1:20 in the morning. My heart dropped into my stomach. This can't be real, I thought in the panic. How long have I been walking up these damn stairs? I had stepped off the bus only 15 minutes ago. I began to speed up in a panic, hyperventilating and counting the floor numbers painted on the walls. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th. The 5th floor simply did not exist. "What the hell is going on?" I whispered. I stopped abruptly and pressed my back against the cold concrete wall. My breathing was ragged, and in absolute dead silence, I could hear my own heart violently pounding. After catching my breath slightly, I heard something creak deep down below in the shaft. Then came a louder, clanking mechanical sound. It was the elevator. It had started slowly, methodically moving up the shaft. I didn't know what to think. Maybe it was one of the new residents returning from a late shift or a party. The elevator reached my floor and stopped with a heavy clank. I closed my eyes and began to pray desperately that the metal doors wouldn't open, but they slid apart with a hiss. I squeezed my eyes shut tightly. I didn't open my eyes for what felt like an eternity, waiting for someone to step out, but there were absolutely no sounds, no footsteps, no breathing. The elevator just stood on my floor with its doors wide open, and they weren't closing. "Pull yourself together," I screamed at myself mentally. I snapped my eyes open. The elevator cabin was completely empty. In pure animalistic terror, I bolted and sprinted up the stairs to the next floor. In that exact second, I heard the elevator doors slam shut. It began slowly rising higher, as if it was intentionally pursuing me. I ran up the stairs faster and faster, but my legs completely refused to obey me. I kept stumbling, falling to my knees, scraping my skin and crawling back up. And then I saw it. The door to the apartment, directly across from the stairwell, was cracked open. What was inside, I couldn't see. It was completely dark. Without thinking, I dashed inside. The door instantly slammed shut behind my back entirely on its own, making a loud clicking sound as it locked. I didn't pay much attention to it. I was still way too terrified of that cursed elevator outside. After calming down a bit and catching my breath, I walked over to the living room window and looked outside. There was nothing beyond the glass. Literally, it was solid pitch black darkness, as if someone had painted the outside of the window with thick black paint. There were no street lamps, no moon, no forest. In full panic, I ran to the kitchen and looked out the window there. But here too, outside the apartment, there was the exact same impenetrable blackness. Nothing existed out there. My God, what is happening to me? I thought in absolute horror. Am I losing my mind? Grabbing the first heavy object I could find, which turned out to be a metal light fixture, I screamed and hurled it directly at the window. The glass shattered into a million pieces. A blindingly bright, searing light burst into the room. I collapsed to the floor and lost consciousness. I woke up to the beeping of monitors in a brightly lit hospital room. It turned out that I had been in a deep coma for exactly 6 months following a horrific car crash. On that rainy evening, the driver of the city bus I was taking to my new apartment lost control on the slick road. The bus swerved into oncoming traffic and collided head-on with a massive 18-wheeler. No one survived that terrible accident. No one except me. All the time, I had been trapped in limbo. My mind had been wandering through the dark corridors between life and death. The police informed me that I was only 500 yards away from my stop when the impact happened. After a month of physical therapy, I was finally discharged from the hospital. I called my friend Andrew, and together we drove to that very same apartment on the outskirts. We wanted to finally celebrate my recovery and my long-awaited housewarming. We were sitting on a bus chatting. As we approached my new building, the sun began to set. It was getting dark. I cast a glance out the window at the approaching high-rise. My heart stopped. Not a single light was on in any apartment of that massive building. It was absolutely black and dead. A sickening feeling of déjà vu washed over me. I spun around to look at my friend, but the seat next to me was completely empty. I looked around the cabin. All the other passengers had vanished. There was no one in the moving bus except me. Cold shivers ran down my spine because I realized I never actually woke up.